Something like this. Live a life of regret for not trying. Something like that. And that fucking terrified me.
This is the Behind the Sound podcast where we talk to producers, engineers, artists, and other creatives alike. Hosted by Sean Gray and Manik. Welcome, Dan. Welcome to the podcast. Appreciate you coming out today.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you introduce to the listeners who you are, what you do, some of the people you've worked with. Give us the rundown.
Sure, man. So 5PiECE is the name, and I do a lot of different things in music. Most of us do.
Yeah.
And the main things I'm really doing these days is I'm doing a lot of mixing and mastering as an engineer, and I'm doing a lot of grant writing as well for Canadian artists, specifically helping them win tons of money from the Canadian government. For people that don't know, there's like hundreds of millions of dollars that gets given away every single year by the government, and I'm the guy that basically helps facilitate that with the artists. And then in addition to those two things, I do a lot of educational stuff. Maybe some people might recognize me from YouTube. I do all kinds of tutorials, definitely talking about those two things, mixing, mastering, and grant writing, for sure. That's kind of like the summary of what I do. Right. You know what I mean? And honestly, like, I don't think I've worked with too many crazy big names, but I've definitely like rubbed elbows with just about everybody in Toronto.
Nice.
And I definitely feel like I help independent artists the most. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
I like that vibe. Yeah. What led you to pursuing music as a career?
Well, I think like everybody, man, it's passion. You know, like we just love music. When we're coming up. When I was growing up, I remember like my family, they loved classic rock. Like I have fond memories of my dad driving around in a black pickup truck, you know, blaring Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. And I remember like I would always be singing and doing that stuff while I was like small. I'm like 3-4 years old probably. And my parents just noticed, hey, like, this kid likes music. Like he likes it a little bit more than the average kid, I think. So we should maybe do something. And they put me into piano lessons when I was young. I also like did sports like baseball and basketball, all kinds of stuff, soccer. But I would like run away from the ball. I'm an athlete a little bit, but like at that time I definitely wasn't. I was more just like in the weeds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so basically they put me in piano lessons and didn't really like it at the time, as you can imagine. Like when you're a kid, like you do want to do other things. You want to go out on the street and play with your friends, play manhunt, bike around, whatever. So I was more into that. Didn't stick it out. Now I regret those things, right? The things that I didn't do, you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's ultimately what started everything. And that passion just sort of evolved throughout the years, you know. And in elementary school, I got really into like Tupac, and I bought the Rose That Grew from Concrete, the poetry book. And I got really into writing poetry. And then that evolved into writing lyrics. And all of a sudden I was like, you know, this cringy white kid rapping in elementary school. And I started kind of doing that in high school. And then like something happened in high school where like I was always known as that dude that was making music. Like I used to like record on like a USB webcam mic on like Cool Edit Pro and like FL Studio like 2. I don't even know, like everybody had the same files floating around at the time. So anybody listening from that era, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But I was just putting things together at the time, you know what I mean? Just with what I had. And ultimately, long story short, when you're an artist, you don't really have money. You need beats, especially at that time. There was no Beat Stars or any of that stuff. So I started learning how to make beats. Yeah. Learning how to make beats got me into figuring out, okay, I need to like, you know, learn how to record, learn how to mix, I should say, and master. Took me down that rabbit hole. And I essentially just like learned every single thing that I needed to do really out of necessity because I didn't have money to be paying people. Not that they don't deserve it. I was a kid, you know what I mean?
You're just trying to learn this shit.
But then as I kind of learned each next thing, I kind of got a little further away from like the thing before it. You know what I mean? So like started producing, I stopped rapping. You know what I mean? Started mixing, started to chill a little bit on producing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Now I'm grant writing, so it's like I'm definitely still mixing actually a lot, but starting to chill a little bit on the mixing now and really doing the grant writing and even the content thing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
What do you think you're spending the most time on right now?
Man, it's like, I would say it's like a 3-way split between the mixing, mastering, the grant writing, and the content creation, you know, cool. And it's, you know, there's overlaps between them, but sometimes it is like, you know, I'm on that string machine being pulled apart, you know what I mean?
So like,
but it's fun too. It's a great thing. I'm not mad about it at all.
With YouTube, I mean, I guess what you could do is like, say you're mixing a song for somebody and they give you permission to, you know, use that song for your content. I guess you could double down on duties there, right?
Of course. Yeah, I do it all the time. Absolutely. Like Oshan, you watch my tutorials, you're going to hear all kinds of Oshan stuff, and you'll also be seeing like what I did. You know what I mean? So if you like a song that I did, 9 times out of 10, you could probably find a tutorial where I kind of break it down. It's never really framed in a way where it's like, this is how I mix this. It's usually like, this is how you sidechain vocals. You know what I mean? Or
Gotcha.
this is how you EQ vocals, or this is how you do a specific thing.
Like, are you recording it while you're mixing it, or you just mix it and then you go, okay, this was my thought process on it?
The latter, for sure.
Gotcha.
Because
Okay.
when you're mixing, like you know how it is.
Yeah.
Like you don't always commit to everything. And for
Yeah.
me, like sometimes I do stuff and I come in the next day and I'm like, oh,
I gotta tear this apart.
this is dog shit. Like
Yeah.
I hope nobody hears this. You know what I mean? So it's like my client's gonna fire me if they heard this. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely a lot of times it's premeditated in a way where like you do the mix.
Yeah.
A lot of times what I'm doing is like I want to teach this thing.
Mhm.
What example do I have fits it best?
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? And then I kind of reverse engineer. Sometimes honestly I will actually remix a song for that purpose. Like sometimes it's like, okay, this song's really good. I have permission to use it. I didn't necessarily do this technique, but I could for sure use it to do that.
Right.
I even have like songs of my own that have never even come out, and I use those.
Oh, okay, cool.
And that's interesting because like I'll get comments like, yo, what song is this, bro? This song's fire.
And it's you as the artist.
Yeah, I was expecting to see like the poo emojis, you know what I mean? And then people actually like it, you know what I mean? So it's kind of an interesting way to test music as well with like a very like limited audience. But
Yeah.
if you ever like have a confidence issue with your music, sometimes you put it out
Making
there.
content around it.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
get the reaction. It's like, it's not out, but if they like it, you know, hey man, it's validated. We should maybe put this out.
That's
right?
cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. I've kind of been finding that for myself because I recently just started, trying to make some content for YouTube too and getting that going. And I was having the same thoughts like, oh, like, what should my approach be? And a lot of guys out there right now, like, John Castelli and Josh Goodwin and Tume, they've all been like recording live on Twitch. And I think that's dope. But I also kind of like I like the approach that you and I are kind of taking of like, well, I don't want people watching us or watching me like work. I'm okay if it's like in person or whatever, but like I'm much more creative when it's just me by myself and it just kind of exploring. And it was funny because I remember doing a breakdown for a video like just recently and like I couldn't even remember what the thought process was. It was just like I was just doing things. I felt like I was in a flow state. And I was like, while I was filming, because I was filming and I was just like, oh, wait, I did this. And then I did that. I was like, oh, wait a second. Okay, now I know what I did. Okay, and then I started breaking down like what it was exactly that I did.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sometimes like there's a method to the madness and then sometimes there isn't, but like after the fact, you have to sort of like assign a method to the madness.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because sometimes with what we do, it's like so like second nature. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to route the sidechain. I'm going to do this. Like, and I just know exactly what I'm going to do. It's in my head. And there's not even a conscious thought. It's just like going to the bathroom. You got to go. You're going to go. You know what I mean? Same thing when you're mixing. I'm just going to do it. I'm not even going to think about it.
Yeah.
But then after the fact, when you're trying to teach somebody, and that's obviously what I do in my content, is I'm trying to teach you how to do what I do. I have to sort of be like, okay, like how can I make this make sense so that person like understands and gets value? Because the truth is too on YouTube, like it's the internet, man. There's no filters. So you're going to get all kinds of trolls and weird people that are going to come at you. So like, you're obviously not going to cater to that audience, but at the same time, you want to try to like make sure you're saying things that make sense so you can limit what that audience is going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And more importantly, make sure that the people who actually rock with you are there at every video commenting, yo, I love this, whatever.
Yeah.
Making sure those people keep coming back and commenting and getting value out of what you're doing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Did you have that same approach outside of, because you were my teacher. I hired you for in-person lessons at one point. Did you have the
Big
same
up yourself,
approach?
man. Big up yourself, bro. This is a full circle moment right here.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
But sorry, what was the question?
So like, did you have that same approach while you were teaching people in person or online, instead of opposed to creating the content and teaching?
Yeah, I think like in person I kind of cheated a little bit because it was sort of where I got to field test a lot of things.
Right.
Because the truth is like, I would say certain things and I would see that it would resonate with people. I would make certain comparisons or whatever. And I just knew, hey, okay, this is a good way to explain it.
Yeah.
Now that I've got that explanation down in my head, of course, because not like I'm committing it to anything.
Right.
Now it's time to commit it in a place where I can actually send it to somebody. And sometimes when I make videos too, I cheat because it's like, I might get asked the same thing over and over and over.
Right.
And I'm just like, you know what? Let me just make a video. And that way when someone asks me,
you just
here's the
reference
video,
it,
bro. Because the truth is, as you start doing more of this, like, you do start getting inundated with requests. All kinds of people. I got a guy DM me the other day. Can you help me sound better and make more money with my music? I'm like, I know that's the tagline of my channel, but could you be a little bit more specific?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, shout out to him though for trying, but it was just like, people are going to come at you from all angles, and you want to find the best way to communicate
Right.
with them. And lessons, private lessons, online lessons was definitely where I got to figure this stuff out before I could actually put it out there. And the truth is, sometimes like I'm still figuring out. A lot of times,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I feel
I might do a video, it'll be a dud, and I'm like, okay, I gotta turn the comments off and try this again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or just find a different way to like,
Yeah.
take a different approach.
No one's gonna see all your stuff, so you're gonna kind of repeat yourself a lot. There's gonna be a lot of overlap, and especially when you've been doing it long enough, like you're gonna start to run out of things. That's why you see so many like YouTubers with like the trendy stuff. You know what I mean? Like, pro engineer listens to Beyonce's album. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, I could do that, I guess. I should maybe do that. You know what I mean? But also, you want it to be authentic to who you are. And let's face facts, like I don't even rush to listen to albums like that anymore. You know what I mean? I'd rather teach you, try to be your big brother, if that makes sense, and learn something along the way. Because when you teach somebody, you get to learn something twice.
Exactly. And well, it forces you to like, what do they say? They say like, it's one of the best learning methods is teaching, because you have to really understand how to break it down into like very simple and easy to understand concepts for someone else too. Like I always like the approach of like trying to explain things to people like they're in grade 2, grade 3. Like really very simple.
Of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do it just to like make sure I understand.
Yeah.
It's like, let me tell my girl, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Let me know if this sounds ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Like, what is compression?
Yeah, it's like, or like she doesn't even have to listen. Like I'm just sitting there talking to myself. You know what I mean? But it's fine. You know, as long as I get it enough to continue the, that path. Right?
Exactly. Let's run it back to like when you were a kid again. So like, what were your influences growing up?
It's kind of interesting. So I was listening to your podcast episode, and like I feel like there's a lot of parallels between our upbringing.
Yeah.
I kind of mentioned my dad and like, my parents really, but my dad especially, with classic rock and listening to all of that stuff. And honestly, I don't even know if I could really name names, just like the classics.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd, AC/DC,
Nice.
Metallica,
Yeah,
classics, right? Soundgarden, like I said. Eventually, I started hanging out with other people, especially as you get in your teenage years. So that's when I started to like get more into hip hop. And I grew up like in like the early 2000s. Like that was when I was young. You know what I mean? When I say young, I mean like elementary, going into high school almost, but not quite, And that was when like, Eminem, 50 Cent, Dre, Ja Rule even, before. So Ja Rule before all that 50 Cent stuff went down. Fat Joe, like all the classics, Ashanti, like all the classics. Like there's so many things I'm overlooking, you know what I mean? But I kind of grew up in that period. And it was kind of interesting because I feel like I grew up in that period where like we didn't have internet, but then we got internet like after, you know what I mean? So I got to experience the best of both worlds where like I would hear a track bumping out of my buddy's car.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yo, what is that?
I was like 11 and he was like 16 because we all, it's a neighborhood. So we're all like different ages, but we all used to hang out and play basketball and stuff. And I'd be like, what is that? Oh, it's Fat Joe. And Ashanti, what's love? I rush home and watch like BT 106 in Park at the time. I don't know if you ever watched.
I remember being
106 in Park, Rap City, The Basement. Like everybody was always going. Like I used to rush home for that. Watch the top 10 countdown with AJ and Free, and like I just love that. So like I think about that time a lot, and that's where like the love sort of came from. But then what actually got me into music, if I really have to credit like a single group of people, I would say like 40 and Drake, realistically speaking. Because for me, when I saw Drake was So Far Gone, I got to witness it. Like I was hearing him before So Far Gone came out. I think it was like Comeback Season was where I kind of got put on a Drake. But then like when So Far Gone came out, all these features, like star-studded features.
Yeah.
And it was kind of wild because Cardinal came out just before that with like Dangerous and all that. And I'm like, oh my God, it's crazy. This is a huge song. Like the world knows who we are.
Yeah.
And then Drake came out with all his. I'm like, oh my God.
Now
Like,
we're
really on the map. You know what I mean? Shout out both of them, by the way. But when I saw So Far Gone come out and I saw Drake and 40, these two guys essentially crafted this sound and like just created this sort of movement at the time, I just looked at it like, it's possible for any of us. Like these guys did it. Why the hell can't I? They're from where I'm from. You know what I mean? It kind of opened the door. It's not to say that they necessarily fully influenced my music, but they just showed me that it was possible.
Exactly.
And then the classics inspired that.
Right.
Pharrell, Timbaland, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dre, of course. Havoc from Mobb Deep. Like, bro, too many to list. You know what I mean? Just the classics, bro. You know the classics? And if you don't, you got to study them, right? But the classics, man, for sure.
That's dope. That's fire. I like that a lot.
What about for yourself?
Honestly, like I really got into the underground Toronto scene. I don't know if you like fully got into my episode, but it was the underground scene in Toronto. So like guys like Roni,
So what time period was this?
I was 16. So this would have been this would have been 10 years ago. So 2012. I wasn't.
I'm old.
So it was 2012, roughly around there.
So that was like when I was about to go to Metalworks.
Yeah.
Just after the Drake era, kind of like Drake kind of popped off, and then it was like 2009, 10, I think, around there.
Yeah.
Him, Cuddy, Kendrick,
Yeah, all those guys, yeah.
And then 2012 happened.
It was funny because I didn't like listen to a whole lot of like mainstream music at that time growing up. Like I really didn't. I was listening to a lot of like the underground scene.
Well, it's funny you say that because in high school, when I was in high school, there was a period of time where hip hop was dead.
Yeah.
Like Nas had a record called that. Hip hop just died in the morning and it's dead. You know what I mean? Everyone's just shutting this thing off right now. I'm bleeding from the eardrums.
Nah.
But you remember that song? And it was I feel like that was kind of accurate at the time because while I said those classics, like there was definitely this lull from like 05, 06 to like 08, like about a 1 or 2 year span, I would say, where it was kind of like nothing was going on. And that was when I started going into underground music, but not the Toronto stuff, because I don't really know if there really was that much aside from like the usual suspects. I don't even know if they'd be considered underground, like Shock Claire and Rascals, you know what I mean? Stuff like that, right?
I feel like at that time there was a lot of pop kind of like really taking over. Around that time.
And like the super cheese, like Fireflies,
like
you know what I mean?
Avril Lavigne and like.
But the thing was too, I actually I still enjoy rock music, and there was a period of time I actually interned at a record label not far from where we are right now at Spadina and Queen. No, Richmond. Spadina and Richmond.
Yeah, it's like one block over.
Right, just one block. I remember going there and I was listening to everything. I can't even remember the names of some of these bands because they were just so obscure. Yeah. And like recently, it was funny, I was on Spotify, I started remembering a few. I think like I watched an episode of something with my girl. Yeah. I'm like, oh shit, that's this song. What is it? And then like I would just sit there for like an hour and I finally figured out what it was. You Google the lyrics, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, man. Like you have to kind of like when you get into music, like, you have to explore so many different sounds. Like you can't just be limited to just what's in your pocket. I think A$AP Ferg said that in an interview where he he doesn't even listen to like hip hop. He just listens to like other shit, like old funk, you know?
It's crazy because even for myself, like, yeah, I still listen to like hip hop and stuff, but I don't like study it as much as I used to. Where now it's like I'm studying like going back and listening to like 2000 throwback stuff, like the stuff that was super popular back in the 2000s. And a lot of like mainstream pop and R&B and stuff in that world, just because, when I am working on music, it's like, it tends to be, it always leans towards hip hop and rap. Of course. So I don't always want to be like consuming that.
I totally 100% agree.
Yeah.
I don't listen
I don't
listen to hip hop really at all anymore.
Really?
Unless it's something I'm mixing, like I pretty much don't listen to it unless I have to, it's like someone's like, oh, you gotta listen to this. Like,
did you listen to Kendrick's album?
Yeah, of course. I listened to that.
Yeah,
but
that shit was good.
I don't know, like, man, I don't want to date myself here, but like lately, man, it's a struggle. Like I feel like maybe I'm getting older or something, but like music does not hit the same that it did. And like I'm starting to think like, because music is like a time capsule.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you
I
listen to something.
love that you just said that. Yeah.
Yeah, like you listen to something and it's like, oh man, I remember we're at this party in 07 and like we destroyed a house. Like it's like something crazy happened, you know what I mean? Or it's always a party, I guess, for some weird reason.
Or you're listening to a song. I remember going through some shit and there's like one song by like Meek Mill.
Of course.
That comes on and I'm like, I remember exactly the first time I listened to that, what I was going through.
In the gutter.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember, I don't, but the reality is I'm listening to music and I'm playing the tiniest fiddle. So sad for my former self too sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thinking about the girl that didn't show up, you know what I mean? Or didn't work out, I should say, Yeah. Or whatever, But as I get older though, like as I'm saying, like I'll take it in. Maybe it's because I'm too close to the elephant. That's kind of the metaphor I like to use. Like when you're standing too close to an elephant, I'm standing right beside it. It's like, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. It's some gray, scaly thing. And then I step back, I see the elephant. You know what I mean? Well, now like I've made music. I know how it's made. Like there's a lot less mystery for me and wonder.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder if sometimes that has sort of affected my perception. Because I don't know if anything, like very few things have hit me in the same way that they did when I was young, you know?
Yeah.
When I was young though, like even like I look at my sister, she's younger than me, like we love music, man. Like I love music. Like you could take away movies and video games and everything. Just got to give me music, man. If I don't have music, I don't know what I would have did.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit
like
different. I don't know. It's weird, man.
I can definitely relate to that. And I feel like a lot of the people that we've been talking to recently, especially like who've been coming on the podcast, they've been saying the same thing. And it's it's made me really start questioning things and start seeing things a little bit differently. I like what you were saying about like being too close to the elephant, because I definitely agree with that as well. I also think that like because we are working on it, it does give us that skewed kind of perception. But I also think that there's, because the barrier of entry to doing music is so low, which I love. Don't get me wrong, I love that. But now it's like anybody can be good.
Totally,
right?
100%.
Like we have all these tools that are very easy to use and can get you to sound really good, really quick. So the barrier to entry is, which I love, and it is pushing the bounds of music. But now I'm not hearing anything like super groundbreaking that's making me feel how I did. And maybe that's just part of getting old. Maybe we are those older guys. Remember, because those guys like who are in their 40s, 50s, or whatever. And they're
auto-tune like, sucks. Like those guys.
Yeah.
I still get them in my my YouTube comments sometimes. Like, this song sucks. Auto-tune sucks. And I'm like, bruh, why are you commenting if you don't like auto-tune? Like, I'm showing you how to mix. I'm not showing you auto-tune. You know what I mean?
They're stuck in like the back in my days, or
it's like a philosophical thing. It's like they have to portray their beliefs. You know what I mean?
And I don't ever want to be like that.
Never.
I never want to be like that.
What kind of weirdo wants to be that way? It's like the truth is, if I don't like something, I'm just like, all right, see ya. Like I'm not even gonna give it any attention, because if I give you attention, I'm rewarding you. You know what I mean? So in a way, thanks for hating on the videos, I guess. You know what I mean with the auto-tune. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But you're right, man. Like that disconnect of age. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because we are in that transition. You know what I mean? You're younger than me though, so you're good. But
I feel like we are kind of like starting to make that shift. We've talked about it with Chris, and we talked about it with a couple other guys. I am seeing some sort of transition start to happen. I'm hearing it. I'm feeling it. I'm really wondering when that push is really going to come through.
What I think is like now we are sort of in that lull that I think we were in when I was in high school with hip hop, where it's like hip hop was dead. You know what I mean? And it's not that it's dead. Like, dude,
it's definitely not dead.
Like you said, the bar is so low now. Like anybody can make music. It's that easy and accessible, which is a blessing, totally. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, it's kind of watered down the quality of the product.
Yeah.
That's why right now everything's like, you have to have a brand. You have to have a personality. It's actually bigger than the music, which makes sense. Yeah. But before it was just the music. Mm-hmm. If you had the music, like everything else was sort of automatic. You know what I mean? People can't be taking those risks no more because the music is so watered down. You know what I mean?
I definitely agree with that.
But there are here's the thing too, though. Like it's such a great time for music discovery. And I know that I'm sleeping, you know, because there's people, like I have a homie, Cashflow. He's always sharing interesting songs, like just interesting things. And there's things that I didn't even know that I liked until I found them and I liked them. Like as an example, like I got really into Afro beats, first of all, which summer vibes. Come on, man. If you don't like Afro beats in the summer, you're just weird. You know what I mean? Like who doesn't want to sway to that, you know? Yeah. But then I got put on to like some French Afro beats artists. So they were like doing Afro beats, but it was like, I don't know if they're actually from France or somewhere else. I haven't really done a whole lot of research on the background of the artist, but it's all in French. You know what I mean? But it's still got the Afro beat vibe. But then there's something about the way that the language, I don't know what they're saying.
Right.
I don't know anything about that, but there's just a feeling.
It's a feeling.
The universal feeling. Yeah. Same with Spanish music, Spanish trap music. Like I love that stuff too, man. Like Ozuna and who's the guy Drake did the record with? Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Bad Bunny. He also does other interesting,
like Latino music. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I just,
it's fire.
And again, like I don't speak Spanish. I don't know what they're saying, but I just understand the vibe. And that's the stuff that's caught me more so. And maybe the language is that missing link where it's like, because I don't know what they're saying, it wows me. You know what I mean? You know?
But there's still energy being transferred there, right?
Of course.
So I think that's what pulls us into it.
100%.
So I think that's part of it for sure. What did you see yourself like being as a kid? What did your parents want you to be?
You know, I'm fortunate that I don't know if my parents ever had like you got to be a doctor. Like they never had some sort of like concrete thing that they expected of me.
Yeah.
They did expect me to go to school, and I was also the oldest in my family. So like I got it the toughest. Like everybody, you know, anyone that's the oldest in the family knows. Like you got to work your parents in. If it was three of us, so second child, my brother, he really broke him in because he was a little bit crazier than me. And then my sister, like, she just didn't have to do anything. Like, it was just a breeze. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for me, they didn't have an expectation. But when I was young, man, I remember I always wanted to, like, be in entertainment, funny enough. So, like, as an example, like, when I was really young,
Yeah.
Like with my child, like I'm talking like grade 2. Like I wanted to be a comedian because Seinfeld was the thing at the time. So I loved Seinfeld. I was a kid, didn't understand half of it, you know what I mean? But I just loved the quirkiness of it. It's a quirky show, you know what I mean? So even then, that's what I wanted to do. And then I got older, and then when I got into high school, that's when you really start thinking about your career, you know? And I actually wanted to get into, I wanted to obviously get into music, but everybody was just so skeptical, man. Like I literally had teachers who were like, you're so smart. Why would you do that? You could go to university. Like they would literally say these things, and it affected me because at the time, like, I don't know any better. I'm a kid, you know, I'm 16, 17, about to make a life choice here that's pretty important, you would think.
Yeah.
In retrospect, maybe it wasn't as important as I thought, but at that time it was extremely, it felt extremely big. And ultimately, I kind of put my music aspirations on the side because I would have went to Metalworks, which, by the way, is the school that I went to learn all this music stuff eventually.
Yeah.
But I would have probably did that earlier. But then because they were like, oh, you're so smart, you should do this, you should do that, I ended up actually wanting to pursue journalism because I was also like always into writing.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense since I am a grant writer and I do utilize that now. But at the time, like I would, you know, help on my school newspaper. And I kind of made like this like men's health kind of section where I would like talk about like just different things. I talk about working out. I would talk about like attraction, like, yo, if you wear this cologne, chicks might like you. Like just some super cringy stuff. But like there was some science there. Like I actually did some research. I wasn't a total, you know, noob. I actually would read things. I kind of looked at it like I wanted to write for either a Men's Health or some kind of fitness journal or like a Cosmo maybe. Anything. Because at the time, you know, everyone would sit around the lunch table and we had magazines back then. People didn't use the internet. You know what I mean? Yeah, now I'm really dating myself, right? Like I said, I was in between that era. And we would just, you know, I'd sit there with like a bunch of girls, we'd be reading Cosmo. You know what I mean? Or I'd be there with a couple dudes and we'd be like looking at a fitness thing, like a fitness plan. I'd be like, yo, we should hit the weight room and try that. You know what I mean? So I wanted to do that. But then I guess life had other plans because then when I applied to go to school for journalism, no school accepted me. There's really like Ryerson, Carleton. There's only like a few of them. At the university level. I could have went to college level, but again, I was too smart, according to teachers.
But you didn't get in.
Well, I did exactly. That's the irony, isn't that the irony? But I did get accepted for like everything else, like communication, psychology, sociology. So I ended up like kind of looking at like, okay, I'll just go to university for psych in this scenario. You know what I mean? Because I figured I would learn something and then I would maybe transfer. Not the move. That was not actually as easy as I thought it was. They pretty much made it impossible for me to switch over. It was like a different faculty. It was all these politics kind of things. So after about a year of school, I just said, screw this, I'm out. Like I paid for my tuition. Like my parents.
1 year?
1 year, yeah. First year I did it. I made a lot of great friends at Ryerson. It's not called Ryerson now. It's called, what is it called now? They
I
changed
can't
it.
remember because of the
Yeah.
controversy with him being a slave owner or whatever.
Exactly. I forgot what they called it. I think it's like New Toronto University. It's something different. But either way,
it was Ryerson.
At the time it was Ryerson. And like I dropped out and I just pretty much worked full time for a couple of years. And then honestly, like after you grind for that long, like I was working at like, to be honest, I was working at Sobeys at a grocery store, you know, stocking shelves. Not a glamorous job by any means, you know, some real labor work sometimes, you know what I mean? But I had a good there. Like I met a lot of great people and stuff. But after a while, I'm like, man, like I kind of started feeling like my teachers. I'm too smart for this. Like, why am I here? You know what I mean? Like I'm an adult now and like there's nobody really pushing you to do something.
Yeah, exactly. And like you're not forcing yourself to grow as a person, to grow in a career. It's just a job. Someone's gonna do it.
Exactly. And like if something happened to me the next day, like I'm easily replaced. I'm a cog in the machine. You know what I mean? So ultimately what ended up happening was I had this passion for music. I always wanted to do it. I wanted to like kind of learn more professionally. I tried different things. I did the tutorials and all that. I just felt like I wasn't getting it. Looked at all the schools and I looked at Metalworks. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to go to a school, I'm going to go to the one where like it's a studio, where people go, where I can actually learn on an SSL. You know what I mean? Because the other ones, no diss to them, like Harris and Trebas, they just seemed not on the exact same playing field, at least in the GTA, right?
Maybe at that time too.
Definitely not at that time.
Yeah.
Like I think Trebas was still teaching like tape and stuff. I didn't learn anything about tape.
Yeah,
at all.
No.
Yeah.
Not even relevant today. I mean, unless you're doing it for like creative purposes as like a producer or something.
Yeah, like if you're Dave Grohl or something, but it was not relevant at all. And I didn't even know at the time. I just kind of knew like, it seems a little small. This one only has one studio. Metalworks has like, I think like 6 or 7. They got a lot of rooms. They got a lot of, they're a full-fledged studio, and then they built the school second kind of. Exactly. You know what I mean? So I, ended up basically enrolling there. Nice. You know what I mean? just kind of took a chance. You know what it is. It's not a cheap thing to pursue. It's an actually pretty expensive, and I pay for everything.
There's the whole application too. Like it's not just like anybody can go there. It's just like you had to like, I can't remember what the application was like, but you had to like submit some work. You had to like write a whole essay and shit.
I'm sure you had to like pitch yourself. I don't even remember, to be honest. That's crazy.
I remember.
I feel like you're right though.
I remember sending in some demos, and I also remember writing an essay.
Interesting.
That's I don't know what it is like now, but I'm sure it's probably similar.
Probably.
You're gonna have some sort of screening process.
Yeah, but so many people don't make it there. And like
that's true.
Don't misunderstand me. Like you don't necessarily have to make it there to make it. You know what I mean? Because there's tons of people who have attended, dropped out, and then did something. I think Wonder Girl went to Metalworks at one point.
I dropped out. I dropped out first semester.
Exactly.
Wonder Girl dropped out. Eastbound was there too.
Tons of people, man. Tons of people. You know, I was one of the few that actually stuck it out. But to be fair, like I loved it, and I went, and at the same time, I went there when I was 22 or 23. So
so you were a little bit older. Yeah,
I was older. Like, and it was funny because a lot of my homies there, they were like 19 coming out of school, and I had a buddy who's like, I want to be a DJ. It's like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean?
If you want to be a DJ, go DJ.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Shout out to him though. He's actually
still lots of like good application. Like Chris and I, like we chopped it up on his episode a lot about school and like what was wrong with the curriculum. And like one conclusion that we came to was that like, I just think it comes down to a maturity thing, you know, about like whether you're going to finish it or not, how you're taking in the information and everything. And like
how you pace yourself throughout it.
Exactly.
Like, are you saving the assignment for the last day? Because the difference with me was in high school and uni, I was not motivated. I'm a smart guy, but at the same time, if you're not motivated, you're not motivated. So I would always like save things for the last second.
Yeah.
I would get like a 60. And it wasn't because I was dumb. It was more because I was like just disinterested and lazy. Let's face facts. But with Metalworks, I would get an assignment, I would go home and I would do it like right away because I was motivated. I was interested in what I was learning, you know? But those things go a long way because even like when you look at the numbers of like my graduating year, like I think we started the year with like 70 people in my program. I remember the first day, like the room was packed, bro. And then by the end of the year, so by semester 3, it was just 1 year straight through, right? You know how it works. But for anybody that doesn't, 1 year straight through, we had 70 at the beginning. By the end of term 3, there was about 20 people. Okay. So it got cut into like a third-ish. And then from there, at graduation, there's only 6 or 7 of us. Wow. There was not many people. And of those 6 or 7, I don't keep in touch with everybody, but from what I've seen, like, you know, through the grapevine, only like 1 or 2 of us are actually like
still doing
in music. You know,
like relevant.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, most of them ended up just doing something else. Life happened, whatever. You know?
How did your parents feel about this though?
Oh, like about
you like doing music.
They were like half supportive, I guess. Like my parents are not like they're super chill. Like anybody that meets my parents, they know they're like the most chill people on the planet. But at the same time, like, you know, they have expectations. And again, I'm the oldest. You know what I mean? So I caught it the worst always, you know? But it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we'll let you do it. Like, I mean, it wasn't like they were letting me. I paid for it. They have, you know, it's not like no. I mean, I was living there for a period of time, right? So obviously they helped me on that front, but I paid for my own tuition. If I messed up, it was on me. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And it was one of those things where like, as time goes on, they saw it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, okay.
They saw that you're like interested.
It works.
You're doing some stuff.
Yeah, man. Like, it's like Steve Jobs says, man, like you need to be passionate about what you're going to do because if you're not, then
you're just not going to do the work.
When some hardship comes up, you're going to give up right away.
Oh, yeah.
And that happened at school too. That's why 70 people, well, half or a third or whatever, 2/3 of people didn't end up making it to semester 3 because when things got a little tough, they were out. You know what I mean? And it even happened to me. There's times where I like fizzled out of situations and I just couldn't live up to the pressure. You know, older me is wise enough to look and know.
They're pretty demanding too, like that.
Oh yeah.
What came from graduating at Metalworks though?
I think just like a little bit more confidence. You know, like I felt like I was very proficient with Pro Tools. You know, like I really figured it. I went in there not really knowing anything about it. And just at the end of semester 1, it was like a night and day difference. You know what I mean? So definitely like confidence is the big thing. And I would say networking, because I actually made an effort to talk to people, like talk to my instructors especially, and like not like on some weird like, tell me how you mix this song. Like, you know, like, because some people like fanboy stuff. I would just be like, hey man, like how was your weekend? What'd you get up to? How's your wife? Like just
being friendly.
Human shit, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? And then because of that, what ended up happening with me was at the end of my term, well, I graduated. When you graduate, it's like actually kind of sad because you're done, and then it's like, well,
Now
no,
what?
no, like I'm not in a career where it's like there's all these job prospects. You know,
Yeah.
studios are closing. But the academics guy there, he ended up hitting me up, and he's like, hey, do you want to intern for Noah 40 Shebib?
Yeah.
And I was just obviously bigging up 40 and Drake for inspiring me in the first place. So I was like, oh my God,
Yeah, of
yeah
course,
dude,
yeah,
like
yeah.
why would I not want to do that? So I ended up actually being able to intern for them for a period of time
At SOTA?
at SOTA. It was pre SOTA being done though. Like
Okay,
now you're seeing
so
SOTA done. Like it was literally under construction, and I was like assisting them with just, I can't say I was building the place. I was just like helping them do like odd jobs and sitting in on certain things. This was when like 40 did the Beyonce record with Drake, and Magic Jordan was just starting to get heated up, and yeah, like all that stuff. If You're Reading This Is Too Late, wasn't I don't even think it was done yet. It was still like in progress.
That's
Nothing was the
crazy.
same, just came out. I remember it was a big deal because they were like, Drake's in the studio sleeping on a mattress, and they would show like a blow up mattress like in like Studio 6 at Metalworks or whatever.
I thought that was the Take Care album.
He did that there too as well.
Oh, okay.
But when I was in school, nothing was the same. So I remember I had a friend who was like a super Drake stan, bro. Like he was like shaking. He's like, because Drake would be there. Like we would be at school, you'd see like his Rolls Royce and stuff, and he'd be like, Drake's here. And I'd be like, get it together, bro. Like I get it. Like he's a great artist, but like at the same time, like he's a human.
Relax, bro.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's what I actually liked about interning for them too, is like I just realized like they're people. Like you know, 40 be like, oh, go give me a coffee at Timmy's. And it's like, oh shit, he likes Timmy's. Okay. Wow, he drinks coffee. You know what I mean? Like so stupid to think about now. It's like obviously, dude, but it was just interesting, you know, that dynamic. Everything with them was always like making things real for me, you know, like because as an example, From Time, I remember 40 opened up the session for From Time. Remember that song on Nothing Was the Same? Yeah. And that was my favorite joint from that album.
Damn. Do you think it was because you saw the session?
No, it was my favorite before.
Oh, okay.
I think I mentioned it. Like, and that was kind of the interesting about 40 is like if you said something and you had to like know when to say it, like it wasn't like you could just say it any time. But if you time things right, like he would kind of gift you a little bit. You know what I mean? So I swear I said something like, oh man, like From Time. It was like one of my favorite joints. He's like, oh, let me open it up. Let me show you. And like he'd pull it open. And I just saw it. It's like just Pro Tools audio. You know what I mean? It looks like a session just like you and me.
Yeah.
Exactly like what we have.
It's crazy.
But in your head, when you don't see these things, you're like, oh my God, it must be the most mystical. Like he opens it up and like gold coins come out of the screen or something.
The regular session.
Yeah, it's just a regular session. A bunch of pianos chopped together. You know what I mean? Vocals chopped together. You know, I obviously like I'm not in there poking around on my own. It's just him kind of being like, oh, we did this, and just give me a little tidbit of information, right? But I just thought it was cool. And again, just reaffirming like these guys, like obviously they're top tier talent, but at the same time, they're not different from you and me. Like we could be there if we try, if we make the effort, if we make the right moves.
Yeah. What followed after you interning at SOTA?
So SOTA eventually ended. You know what I mean? All good things come to an end.
Yeah.
You know, but it's good. I'm actually kind of in retrospect, I'm really happy, to be honest with you, because it was also a very stressful time. You know, because not because they were like stressing me out or anything. It was just my own internal pressure. I was young. You know what I mean? This was my first. It was like my first opportunity. Imagine your first opportunity. It's like, work with the person you admire most, you know what I mean? And don't mess this up, you know what I mean? It's like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
Pressure's on.
Pressure was on. It was internal pressure, right? I just didn't handle it as well as I feel like I should have and wish I did. But I'm not mad. So after SOTA, you know, I was kind of out there, and funny enough, I ended up just looking at different studios, and really you're just interning at the beginning, man. So this is actually where I got to meet our friend Chris. Nice. So I had another friend named Phil who was working at the studio called DNA Recording Facility.
Got you.
It's in Vaughan. It doesn't exist anymore from what I know. But basically, yeah, like my boy Phil just kind of got me in there. He was more like a business video kind of guy. He had a background in music, but so he brought me into DNA, and then I got to meet Chris, and I got to meet all the guys there, and I ended up interning there for about 3 or 4 months. And then Metalworks once again called me because I was a good pupil. Yeah. And they're like, yo, we got this other opportunity for you. It was like another studio like up the street called Vespa Music Group. And DNA and Vespa were both similar in the sense that they pretty much did not do hip hop. They might have the odd session, but predominantly rock, metal, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And that was really where I feel like I got like School of Hard Knocks, like learned. Like I had a guy that was above me, his name was Kieran, and he was just super like on top of everything. Like he was like the dream assistant, I feel like, for somebody, because he was just always super aware of things. But then he was also like super chill, like stoner, like. But then like when it was on, it was on. You know what I mean?
He was aware enough to like take action when he needed to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of sessions there with like all kinds of like bigger rock groups. There's a guy named Eric Ratz who's a producer that used to work out of there, and he's done all kinds of big records if you look him up. And I ended up working on a record for Danko Jones, who's like a big Canadian rock trio. You know what I mean? Like if you say it to like your parents, like your pops or whatever, they'll know. They'll know. Like I said it to my dad. He's like, oh shit, Danko Jones is pretty cool. You know what I mean? So that's what ended up happening. But then eventually, of course, like I'm gonna be honest, I got burned out, dude. Like I was interning, and then finally when I was able to get a paid position with one of the studios, the money was just not there, man.
Yeah.
Like it was not livable. Like it was not. And the truth was, at that time, one thing I left out was I was actually double dutying, meaning I was working at the studio. I would like go to the studio like 10 a.m. and I would grind till like 6, 7 at night. I would go home, I would eat dinner, I would pass out, I would wake up at 1 in the morning.
And
I would go to a warehouse and I would work at a warehouse for a bread company where the bread you buy at your grocery store.
Yeah.
And I would grind from 1. It was like a weird job. It was like 1 to 6. Like I was basically loading the trucks, and it was like a really high paying job.
Yeah.
Because it was obviously like just the most bizarre of hours. You know what I mean? So I was able to sustain myself financially while I was interning, but I'm telling you, man, like I was losing it. Like I had a bald spot in my beard, alopecia, I had a bald spot in my head, and it was like, it got to a point, and I was also like in a really bad relationship with a girl at the time. And it was just too many things. The stress of the studio, the stress of working, not sleeping, this bad relationship that I shouldn't have been in. All of it just eventually exploded. And I'm like, yo, I'm done. I'm done with music. And I pretty much kind of quit for a bit. I'm like,
wow.
I left all the studios. I worked at that bread thing a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, let me just get like an actual proper job. And I actually got a marketing job for 6 months. I learned a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I learned a lot on this marketing job. It's a digital marketing agency, so I learned all about search engine optimization and honestly all these things that I use today.
Yeah.
In fact, like it was essential that I actually did this in retrospect. You know what I mean? But then I was doing that. Pay wasn't too bad. I was learning a lot. It was rewarding work. Had a good team, but then the thoughts started creeping in, man. Like, man, I'm here. My potential, my music potential. Like. I didn't even give it a fair shake. Because really all that stuff I just said happened. That happened over like a 7-month span.
Right.
From like December to like July. You know what I mean? So fast forward like 6, 7 months. The company actually wants to hire me, the marketing company.
Yeah.
I had another job offer from another marketing company. And then I was debating about this music stuff. And a friend of mine had a connection at a studio, the studio that was going to open. And they needed an engineer full time. Well, not full time, but they just needed an engineer. You know what I mean? And they're like, "Yo, we'll bring you on. No guarantee of anything." And they actually encouraged me to keep my job.
Yeah.
But they're like, "But you could come and engineer here, and we could split the money, whatever." We kind of figured it out, right? So I'm like, okay, let's kind of put this on paper. So I did like Tim Ferriss has like this fear setting kind of exercise where you kind of go down rabbit holes of scenarios of like, what's the pros, the cons, what could happen if I did it, what could happen if I didn't do it, and I literally still to this day have a spreadsheet where it was that decision. Stay at my current digital marketing job.
You still have it?
I still have it. I think it's on my website actually somewhere because I have an article about like, should you quit your job to pursue music?
Way.
So if anyone's listening still,
go watch that video.
Well, don't watch it. It's not a video, it's an article, but there's an article on my website. Something along the lines of, should you quit your job to pursue music or whatever? And it shows that article, tells the story again. But basically 3 scenarios: stay, go to another digital marketing agency, quit both, and, take the studio life. You know what I mean? Pursue the studio life. And I'm telling you, man, option 3 made no sense. None of it made sense. But one con, the only thing that sold it was live a life of regret. Something like this. Live a life of regret for not trying. Something like that. And that fucking terrified me. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what? I'm not old. I'm capable. I'm a smart dude. Everyone's been telling me that my whole life. I must have something going on.
Yeah. I
could try this again. Let me try it again for like 1 year or something.
Yeah.
If it really doesn't work, man, one day I'll be 30 and I'll start to figure out my life then. I was like 24, 25 at the time.
Yeah.
Took that chance and ended up working out, man. I have not really had a job since. You know what I mean? I've just been in music full time. And again, it made no sense.
Wow. That's inspiring, man.
I'm glad it worked out, man.
Bro,
we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You know?
That's honestly inspiring because it's like you really did think about it, but you know, that fear of not trying got you to where you are now. And man, I really admire that because I'm not in that same position. I know lots of our peers have also gone through similar things that you have. And I also know people who are in the similar positions as me. And yeah, no, I think it's super admirable because I can see that it's really helped you grow as a person, grow in your career. You're learning all kinds of different skills, like doing the content, and you know, you're learning all kinds of technical stuff when it comes to mixing and stuff, and like making content. There's all kinds of other skills you need to be learning too to create good content. So
Yeah, man.
you're learning you're learning a lot more. And had you just stuck it out in like the marketing or, you know, at that warehouse moving bread or whatever.
Yeah, squandering potential is sort of how I see it.
So I think, you know, I think you deserve a pat on the back for that one.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, for
thanks.
sure.
I could do it now in retrospect. At the time, it was terrifying. It was terrifying.
Yeah, I bet.
And the truth is, it's like I burned. It's like I know it's not a real story, but there's that story about the fighters who like burned the boats when they got. Apparently, it's not true, but I feel like that's what I did because I looked at it like I got nothing. Like I have to make this work, and that actually forced me to like sell. Like I was like hitting up artists. I was networking like crazy.
Yeah, you have
those
to.
foundational years of that studio. Eventually, the studio did shut down, and that's when I ended up doing my own thing and building my own studio and stuff. But at that time, like I had to make it work, and I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
You know?
So continue down the line. You built your own spot.
So that studio shuts down. Right?
Yeah.
Some stuff happened. They just couldn't keep it open any longer, and I was kind of ass out, to be honest, because that was like my home base. It really was. I was treating it like my own studio in a way. Like I was bringing in clients, and I just kind of banked on it always being there. And then one day it wasn't. I'm like, oh shit, you know what I mean? It's like, and this is my livelihood. I don't have another means of income. And at the time, a lot of what I was doing was recording, which is not what I'm doing now. But at the time, recording was like
that was your bread and butter.
Bread and butter. Any engineer at the beginning of their career knows like tracking is how you kind of start.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to make consistent money. You're going to trade a lot of time. You're going to inhale a fuckload of blunt smoke, but you know, you're going to be all right. You know, you get through it for a year or two, you'll hang in there. You'll be okay. So they shut down and quickly I have to pivot. You know what I mean? At the time, there's no means to have my own space. At least I didn't think that was possible. Right. So I ended up finding the studio located not too far away from them. And I just sort of struck them a deal like, yo, I'm an engineer. Give me a decent rate. You know what I mean? I'll come in, I'll pay. And I basically just factored that rate into my own. Kind of like what people do now with like other studios in the city, Lynx, et cetera, you know? And I just sort of did that for a few months. But then things started getting weird. I would go there and then one day the mic wouldn't be there, you know? They had an actual in-house engineer and he'd always be trying to poach my clients. He'd always be like, oh, well, you should come back one day when Dan's not here and I could take. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like, I'm paying you guys. You know what I mean?
Clients,
like, what do you, like this... I shouldn't even need to tell you about this. And we had some like squabbles about it, you know what I mean? But it was just like, if I'm being honest, just some rookie stuff, you know what I mean? At the time, more so on the engineer's part. He didn't know how to move. He didn't know how it works. You know what I mean? Anyways, so that was obviously really pissing me off. Out of nowhere, go to Atlanta. We go to A3C, me and a bunch of my homies. A3C is like a conference down there, right? And I'm really close with one guy named Slow Jams, who's another producer in the city. And me and him have always been collaborating on beats because I also make beats, right? I just don't talk about it as much. And basically, he just starts calling around. Like, out of nowhere, we get back, we're invigorated. Like, yo, we got to start. Let's just start making beats. We're going to start sending them to Atlanta. We're going to get this factory going. You know what I mean? And he ends up making some calls. He ends up calling where my studio is now. It's a place called Ruckus. But he calls the downstairs. So it's kind of weird. The upstairs is Ruckus, and it's monthly rentals where you can rent on a monthly basis. And the downstairs is like hourly rehearsal rooms. So he calls the downstairs. Downstairs is called Groove Room. Talks to the guy there, and the guy's like, no, we don't do monthly rentals because we're looking for a monthly room. No, we don't do that. But hold on, the landlord's right here. Let me see if he has anything. Like, hey, you got any rooms, whatever? And the guy's like, yo, somebody just gave me their 1 month notice.
Wow.
And anybody, like, I mean, maybe it's different now, but at the time, like, it was very difficult to find a space.
No,
like,
it still is, bro. I'm still looking. I'm still looking for a room.
You have to wait for someone to die, pretty much. Like, I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. In fact, I think that's what happened to my room. But anyways, so basically, just by stroke of luck, divine timing, said he has a room. we go. We ended up having 2 rooms. He had another room downstairs. When we go to see, he can't find the key for the second room.
Oh.
He lost the key. He's like, yo, I just had it. The landlord's like, oh, what the hell? He's freaking out. He's like, well, this is all I could show you, I guess. And I'm like, we'll take it. We'll just take it. And we just split the rent.
That's crazy.
And we did that for a while. And then eventually Slow Jams had to cut. He had some other stuff going on, so we had to leave. And it was right actually when the pandemic was going on. It was like a couple months into the pandemic. We were hardly using the space. He decided to cut. And I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to come by this again, man. So I'm just going to triple down. And worst case, I'll just cut in a month. Like our lease was up. So we just go month to month, whatever. You know what I mean? And I've hung on to it ever since, man. Yeah. So, and I do everything there. Any of my YouTube videos you watch, it's all in that studio.
That's crazy.
My mixing I do there. Have meetings there.
there.
Illmind's done a session there. Yeah, that's how I met Illmind. Was I actually hosted him at my studio, and it's funny. He still talks about it. Like we all still kind of joke about it because I met so many people that night. Even a buddy of mine, Drew from New York. He's like a good buddy of mine. We literally go to Atlanta together. He was like Illmind's right hand man at the time, and they're still good, obviously, but. You know, I'm just clicked up with all these people because of this one thing, and that all really was born from having the studio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
having that value to offer. You know,
I'm starting to see that too because I got some homies that they have a studio too, and they're like, "Yo, it's crazy! Like when you have that space to offer, like how much, like you said, like you're offering value to people. You can offer a free session, you can host a meeting, or whatever, right? And you're building connections that way. That's super dope."
Absolutely, man. I mean, from a long time, like I just realized you got to give people a reason to give a shit. You got to give them some kind of, most people are selfish, unfortunately, myself included. You know what I mean? So you got to give them some value. You know what I mean? Like, what is it that you have that's going to entice somebody to want to do anything, especially a person who has some sort of leverage or power? You know what I mean? Like, they're getting propositioned all the time. So all you have is the value you can offer them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, you know, like when you write a cover letter, it's just like, well, I want this job because blah, 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 blah. And it's just like all about you. It's like, well, no, the company doesn't give a fuck about why you want the job. They want to know what you're going to bring to the table and to help benefit them. Right. I think people get that mixed up all the time.
Exactly. And that's kind of the interesting part about grants. Now that I do that, is like I'm constantly trying to uncover how I can give the organization the most benefit for what they're investing in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Could be anything, you know? Is it the first time that someone's doing this type of project and they have this track record and they're impacting a lot of people, right? Because if I have a project that's like 2 or 3 people, not as enticing as a project that's going to hire 20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I want more money, I need to impact more people. You know what I mean?
I like that.
If there's certain funding priority groups, because that exists as well with grants, where they kind of want to subsidize specific sections of marginalized peoples. If somebody fits that criteria, we're going to talk about it. We're going to make that a focal point of an application because it's just the truth. They want to fund these people.
Yeah.
If you fit the criteria, why not let them know, hey, man.
Yeah.
You know? So
I think why don't we transition into, you know, like funding and grant, finding funding. Which is your company, and then as well as, you know, what is a grant and, you know, who are grants for? Yeah.
So, well, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, obviously, is Canada has hundreds of millions of dollars in arts funding that they give away every year. Like sometimes it's like one organization that gives away like 800 million or something. Mind you, it's not just for music, it's for music, dance, theater, visuals.
It's just that one organization.
It could be a whole bunch of stuff, right? Exactly, right? But they have this funding. It comes from the local economy. It kind of depends. It comes from the federal government, so like, you know, the whole country, or maybe it comes from a province, so it's provincial, or maybe it's just a specific municipality like Toronto.
Yeah.
And they want that money to go back into the local economy. So a lot of these grants too will have like a stipulation where it's like, okay, if you get a grant from the Toronto Arts Council, that money is spent in Toronto.
Yeah.
You can't go to Ottawa, you can't go to Quebec, you can't go to BC. Can't go anywhere outside of the country, of course. Can't go to the States. Got to spend it locally. You know what I mean?
Smart.
Right? So, man, it's just like I see it like this crazy opportunity. And I'm not going to lie, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to get. You know, like people hear free money and they start salivating, looking like that guy wearing the banana suit behind the tree in that meme. You know what I mean?
It's not like the money printer that we had during COVID.
Well, the interesting thing is it's not, but then It kind of is. Like once you understand and once you have something tangible, like if you're an artist with leverage, oh man, like there's certain artists I have where it's just like all day, baby, let's go. You know what I mean? And like I never miss for them. You know what I mean? Whereas other artists, sometimes it's more of a challenge. And usually it's just a product of where that artist is in that moment. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people will hit me up. Oh, I want to get a grant. Can you help me? Send me your Spotify. I don't have one. Well, what the hell are they going to fund? How are they going to fund you? They have no idea what you can do. You've never done anything.
They have no track record.
You got to have a proof of concept of what you're trying to do. You want to do an album, never done an album? You better have at least like 5 singles then. You know what I mean? If you don't have no singles, well, you're screwed. Like, and I have that conversation a lot where I tell people, yo, not ready right now. It's not a no, it's a not now. That's the difference. Because I want people to hit me up. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick either. I'm like, I want to help people win funding. But I also don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste their money. And I don't want to do that for myself either.
Exactly.
I want everybody to win in the right circumstances when it makes sense. And if you're ready to go, I'll tell you, let's go. If you're not ready to go, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do.
Exactly. You're not going to bring on a new artist who, you know, they want some free money. It is a waste of your time, right? So why?
It's not even that. It's just they're probably not going to win. You know what I mean? Like, because if I do think they'll win, like there is times where sometimes it does make sense. You know what I mean?
But you'll know.
But very rarely, to be honest. More often than not, like you need to have some sort of evidence of what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? And having product out there, having music, videos, albums, having stuff out there, having stuff going for you. You know what I mean? Like when I apply with like Everything Ocean, we're talking about a guy who's got like 9 albums. You know what I mean?
He's been doing it.
He's been doing it. So we have proof. We have proof. I've already won him a bunch of grants. So when I go to an application, I say, hey, he's got 9 albums. I'm paraphrasing. He might have more or less, but let's just say he has 9, right? He's got 9 albums. You know, he's got this many videos. We've won this much funding from, you know, these 5 organizations. It's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? It's like Shark Tank or Dragon's Den. You know what I mean? It's like it's sharks. They're all investing. You're going to invest. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, they want to impact people once again. And if you have proof that you can do that, you've done that. It's automatic all day.
So you're a grant writer, and you also have, you know, Finding Funding. So Finding Funding is your company that facilitates you know, that grant writing application for people, and you also educate creators to get that funding. Correct.
So sort of 2 ways, right? So one, I facilitate the grants. I'm a grant administrator, grant writer, whatever you want to call it. But I basically, you know, we talk, I figure out how to apply to this thing, and I essentially do it on behalf of the artists, secure them the money, and then help them with that project as well to completion. Because
either you're mixing it, you might be mixing
well,
it.
Well, not only that, but there's 2 aspects to a grant. It's you apply to it, which is what everybody thinks about. But then when you get the money, like if you win it, like now you're committed. Now you have to do stuff. You know what I mean? And like if you don't do it right, like they'll take it back. It becomes a loan. So I'll help them through that entire process. I don't work with someone just to apply. I help you apply and I help you keep it. That's kind of how I see it. Because if you don't do it right, they're going to take it back, like I said. So that's one aspect, but then I do have an educational side. So on my YouTube, I talk a lot about mixing and mastering, but I do have the odd video here and there where I'll talk about grant writing, and I'll do that just for free to help people because it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. But then I do have a course available as well where I teach you how to apply step by step. I show you all the support materials and everything that you need to kind of do to basically apply to that grant and create a fundable application. Because a lot of times too, like a lot of people that hit me up, they've applied before. They're not coming to me for the first time. They're like, man, I applied to Factor. They didn't award me. I applied to OAC, TAC. They didn't give me a grant. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then in 5 minutes, I know exactly what they're doing wrong. They're just not, it's a positioning thing. It's about how you tell your story. You know what I mean? You got to tell the story in the most compelling way possible.
So what separates you from them? And like, how do you know how to position them differently than themselves or somebody else?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. Like, it's funny. There's an artist that I work with who literally does grants for other things. Like, he's no dummy. He's a very smart guy. Like, he gets grants for other things, for businesses and all kinds of stuff. But when it comes to talking about himself, it's too close to the elephant, my friend. You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
So that's why, like, in his situation, he hires me because he knows that I can kind of
you're gonna
step
take that
back,
30,000
find the angle. Right. And even when I have I have like interns and different people that I work with too, and I find like even with them, like there is sort of like a way of communicating. And like you can kind of see hopefully like how all of what we talked about before this has sort of culminated into this, right? Think about it, like I was into writing. Like I always loved to write in high school. That's why I wanted to get into journalism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was good at English too. You know, got into marketing, learned how to position things and how to sell things. You know what I mean? Then I had to go and earn my own dinner working at a studio. Mind you, I was doing engineering, but of course, like I was basically an entrepreneur. I had to still get the gigs. You know what I mean? I had to learn how to,
how to interact with clients and how to keep them, how to, you know, be, you know, provide good customer service, that sort of thing.
Exactly, right? Present the studio in a certain way, present my abilities in a certain way. So knowing all of those things is sort of what ended up allowing me to do this grant thing. Because now, like, when I sit with somebody, like, I have to find out the angle, like, almost right away. So, like, even on, like, a discovery call where I'm sitting with you just trying to figure out, like, if grants is a thing that we do, which, by the way, like, 90% of people don't even make it to that point. You know what I mean? Because I have such strict criteria if I'm applying for somebody. Again, not because like I'm a dick, but because I just know that most people are not going to be qualified. You know what I mean?
And it's just out of respect for yourself and them too, right?
It's for both.
Yeah.
And like I said, like if I can, I'll try to give them as much advice as I can. I have all my videos for free. You know what I mean? Well, most of them. Obviously, the course is a different thing, but on YouTube, you can watch tons of videos that'll tell you a lot of this information as well. You know? So it's just like, but the thing is, a lot of people don't do the homework.
No, that is the problem.
That's the problem. People want to just be spoon-fed information. You know what I mean? And it's just like, dude, if you just took 1 second, you know what I mean?
And you are spoon-feeding it to them because you've taken all of your knowledge and we've done a course on it. You've done a workshop on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? So it's like,
you were there for that. That's right. I forgot about that because that was like, feels like a million years ago because COVID added like 13 years to everything.
But like you are spoon-feeding these people that information. So it's like, I just don't understand why they're still kind of come to you and still expect more from that.
I think that's just like, I have a word for this, man. People are expectatious. You know what I mean? Like they just, and it's not just these people, it's a lot of people. Like people want there's free money. And it's a thing too, because I have friends that like, you know, no conflict of interest in it, but I have homies that worked at the grant organizations. So they would like tell me certain things, you know what I mean? And like people will be super salty about not getting a grant. But me, whenever I didn't get a grant, because by the way, how do you think I learned all this? I got rejected plenty. You know what I mean? You only learn from the rejection. But not just the rejection, but from how you react to it. So I would get rejected, for example, and then I would get on the horn, man. Hey, what did I do wrong? Can you give me some advice? How can I make this better next time? I talk to the organization, the program coordinator, whoever the contact is. Not all organizations will do this, but at that time when I was doing it, most of them would, thankfully. And I was able to like uncover so many nuggets, you know what I mean? To be honest, the way I actually started this was we came back from Atlanta right around the same time where we got the studio, me and Adrian, Slow Jams. It was so random. My mom, of all people, she was on Twitter at the time. And Norm Kelly, remember Norm Kelly, Six Dad? So he was tweeting, he's like, oh, music grants at City Hall, attend for free. And it was basically a seminar about grants with all the organizations, Factor, TAC, OAC, Canada Council. Everybody was there. And it was just like a seminar for free where they just kind of told you, you know, what to do, how to apply, how to frame yourself. And I'm telling you, dude, I went to that seminar. I went home. I wrote my first grant and I won it.
No way.
And it was free. I didn't pay anything for that one. You know what I mean? But I understood because they gave me a lot of things like, you know, like I was saying before, like, how is this going to impact people? Most people will be like, oh, I want to make this album because it's important to me. It's like, forget you, bro. Like, obviously, you're going to benefit from this, but like, are you hiring people? How many people are you hiring? Nobody wants to fund a one-man band. You know what I mean? And that's a struggle that I have with a lot of artists too, is like, yeah, it's just me and my producer. Great.
Like,
I don't know what to do with that because like I can't ask for 10K just for two of you guys to get paid. You know what I mean? What's your marketing plan? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, you got any recommendations? It's like, oh my God, does nobody know anything about marketing ever? Like, I'm not trying to sound salty, which I 100% sound salty, but
I think
it's very common that that's the conversation. You know what I mean?
Part of that budget, like let's say you win a grant, right? Now, do these organizations now want you to spend X amount of dollars or percent of the money of the funding to go towards different?
They don't explicitly say like 25% must be this. Now, some grants like Factor, they have a juried sound recording. They actually have like, that grant is essentially 5 smashed together where it's like there's a piece, you know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, like 5,000 for radio marketing, 10,000 for sound recording. Or a lot of the other ones, like Canada Council for the Arts, as an example, they're extremely abstract. They have their program's called explore and create concept to realization. It's called that because it's not just for music, right? Whereas Factor is just music. So they're funding dance, theater, all this stuff. So what they basically mean is you take an idea from, basically having the roughs to the final, put forth product. You know what I mean? Where it's out there, So for music people, I'm taking an album that has demos and I'm making it the final released product. You know what I mean? Now, to ask for a certain amount of money, you need to justify it. Because when you're applying, you're turning in a budget. Yeah. So I need to say, okay, I want to get, it's an average ask for them is like 15 to 20,000 in my opinion. For me, when I'm applying for most people. Yeah. You can go as high as 60,000 for that grant, okay? But 15 to 20 I find is the most reasonable ask. You know what I mean? For most people, unless you're out of here.
Like,
you know what I mean?
You're jazz cartier, you're yeah.
Yeah, I only have a handful of clients that are really at the level where I can maybe ask for the full sum. Yeah. But again, just because you ask doesn't mean you get it. You got to justify every little bit of it. So for a 20,000 ask, I might say, okay, 7,000 for marketing, and the way that's split is 4,000 for PR for a 120-day campaign. I'm just kind of throwing out numbers here. You know what I mean? But I'll be very specific.
When you're doing the actual application.
Of course. You have to be extremely specific, and you can't just pull numbers out of your ass. It has to be tangible and real, So
because they want to see this data, right?
For sure. And when you turn it in, that's what they're expecting you to spend. Right. You know what I mean? Now, sure, some things might change, and there's a process for that. You have to get those things approved. If I get a grant and I said I was going to spend a certain amount, and then time comes and now circumstances are different. Maybe somebody is no longer able to be hired or what have you. Prices went up. I have to now hit the organization up and let them know about these changes. Right. You know what I mean? It happens all the time where it's I was going to hire this producer, but he moved to Miami. I can't hire him anymore. Shit. I was going to hire him for $1,000, let's say. You know what I mean? What do I do with this 1,000? Can I spend it here? I'll be like, time out. Yeah. Let me hit up the organization. Who do you want to hire instead? How much is their rate? And I got to kind of do the process for that. Right. But before you even get there, that's in the event that we win, when you're applying, you have to be very specific and meticulous with the details of how those numbers came to be. Nothing is really an unreasonable ask. Yeah. Right? It's just about if it's justified. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If I say I want 10K for marketing and that's all I say, probably not going to get it. Yeah. But if I say 10K for marketing, 4K for PR, of that 10, 4 is for PR, 2,000 is for radio, $1,000 digital marketing budget. These are the people doing these jobs. Do you know what I'm saying? Very specific, as you can see. You know what I mean? When it's taking place, that's what's going to actually win you a grant.
It's funny. I want to kind of jump back to, when you're talking about, how certain artists, they just don't, you ask them, what's your marketing budget? It's well, I think that gives you, not a lot of artists, really think about that. And I guess grants isn't only exclusively for artists. It can be for producers or a studio owner or what have you.
Believe it or not, it isn't. It's basically for people who are creating a product that's going to be released under their own name. Okay. So gotcha. A producer could, if you're a DJ Khaled or a Timbaland, where you're making a project, releasing that project as your own brand name. Okay. That's actually a big misconception. A lot of people don't realize that. Studio owners, not a lot of grants, maybe more of
that'd be a business grant then.
Maybe a business grant, but even those don't seem to exist as much as they did. Okay. More so you might have to go for some sort of low interest loan, which I know is not a sexy thing. No, not at all. The only one that I ever encountered was I actually got a grant for my business. It was the Toronto Starter Company. And that was just for Toronto. And I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of hoops that I had to jump through to get it. It was actually probably one of the more challenging grants to get. So if you're somebody that isn't an artist releasing your own music, your best bet is to literally align with an artist.
As a
get
producer.
them funded. Yeah. Make sure you have an agreement to get a certain amount. Yeah. Because I do have that too, where someone will hire me for grants, but then I'll also be mixing for them. Right. But these are separate things, just to be clear. Yeah. So then we have a pre-agreed, okay, my mixing will be X amount per song, this many songs. Right. If you don't win the grant, we'll talk about it, figure it out. But this is just sort of the deal. And then obviously when it goes through, we already know what's up. Yeah. And there's no misunderstanding.
That's dope. That's dope. So where can people find your course?
So www.findingfunding.ca.
Gotcha.
Emphasis on the .ca, folks.
It's .ca,
not .com.
Okay.
Me and Damon John from Fubu who've been beefing on that one.
We'll make sure that's in the show notes for the guys.
Yeah.
So they can go check you out there.
And of course, check out the YouTube as well, right?
YouTube,
YouTube.com/5PiECE.
Nice.
5PiECE, you find me. You'll see all the mixing stuff, but there is some grant videos as well. I even have a video on there about how I got 100 grand in grants.
You did that last year.
Last year.
Yeah, that's fucking
That was
sick,
my goal
bro.
last year. This year, my goal is a little bit more. I'm trying to get at least 200, which
Ooh.
might actually be, surprisingly, it might be actually too low of a goal, I think.
Oh, really?
So I'm trying to kind of go like 100, 200, and then just double every year. That's essentially the goal. But the truth is you need the right applicants. Like I need to be able to apply for the right people.
Yeah.
Because you could either apply for a lot of small ones or you have to scale and you have to go for the big ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like try to find the big dogs.
So what are you trying to do? You're trying to go for the big dogs?
I'm trying to do both because like I like you'd be surprised at who hits me up. I get some pretty big inquiries sometimes where I'm like, damn, this person's hitting me up about grants. That's wild. Not that I can't do it. I absolutely can, but it's just interesting to see the reach. Because the truth is I don't do any marketing whatsoever. I do stuff like this.
So
I post videos.
Yeah.
That's it.
So what about, because I know there's like agencies that also do grant writing too that you can hire. So what separates you from them?
You know, I wish I had a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't talk to them, not because I hate them or something. I just like, I've never needed to reach out to them. A lot of them seem to not do what I did, well, what I said I do before, which is work through the entire engagement.
Yeah.
So a lot of them will just write the grant
and get them,
and then they'll
money.
leave you.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is, man, most people that I've dealt with, they've done that and then they get burned. And the reason why they get burned is because the person gets them the grant and they say, the rest is on you, bro. And then they leave. I got my money, peace. They're out. And then you have to manage the money and you have to complete the report. But guess what? You didn't even apply. You have no idea how any of that works.
Yeah.
Is that group going to show you how to do that? No, they're probably not. No. You know what I mean?
And if they do, you're probably paying a lot more too for it.
You're going to be paying an extra fee, 100%. So for me, I'm working with someone the entire time. And I tell like anyone I work with, I'm like, yo, I'm your partner in this.
Yeah.
I'm a consultant, like whatever it is. If you got to change something, you hit me up, we change it. You need the report completed. You're not even going to tell me, to be honest. I'll be on you being like, yo, the report's due in 2 months, bro. I'll need everything now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'll be busting your balls. You know what I mean?
That's dope that you do that. You have that like, really hands-on experience for them. So
for sure.
It seems like that you're a lot more hands-on with them. You're really catering to them and to the whole service, right? You're not just like and it's just you solo too?
Pretty much, man.
Wow.
I do have an intern that helps me as well.
Okay.
Shout out more.
Okay.
And I've been trying to clone myself, but it's a special profession in a way where it's not like a labor job. Like there's labor involved, but it's like you have to think, like you have to know how to communicate. And I'm surprised, man, people's writing is not as good as I would wish. You know what I mean? Or maybe I'm fussy. I'm not sure. I know that I will eventually find more people to help with this, and I'm certainly looking.
You're trying to like scale it?
Of course. If anyone's listening out there and you feel like you're a strong writer, like feel free to DM me, you know, or email me and let me know, because I'm always open. And of course, I'm not just gonna feed you to the wolves. I'm gonna show you the ropes at the same time.
Exactly.
You know, but you know, writing and communication is something that I think a lot of people struggle with today.
So with all the things that you're doing, you know, between the grant writing, your YouTube content, mixing and mastering, how do you find it? How do you find balancing all these things and all these ventures?
Man, my boy Drew, bro, from New York, he says it, bro. Work hard, play hard. And like I look at this in seasons, because even grants is seasons, you know, where you have deadlines for like 2-3 months and then there's nothing for 2 months. You know? So like I'll be going hard for like March, April, May, June, July, I could chill. That's why I was just in Italy. You know what I mean? Also because my girl's a teacher, so I got to time that out, you know? Now I'm back to grind time because now the deadlines are August, September, October, November. What happens after like November, mid-November? Christmas, man, I'm chilling. But of course, like when I'm chilling, I'm actually doing something else. You know?
Yeah, you're doing something else.
And I'm obviously still mixing and doing all of these things. So it is, I'm not gonna lie, I'm juggling a couple of balls here, and it does become a little bit challenging at times. But I like what I'm doing, and I'm also not afraid to say no. Younger me was afraid to say no. I say no to a lot of stuff now. And the older I get, the better I get at that. And I think it's such a
say no.
I think it's a superpower, man. Because think about it, how many times people want you to come out to something, or like, oh, let me just pick your brain for 1 minute. Let me take you out for a coffee. It's just like, honestly, of like one time I could understand how you might think that's not that much, but imagine that times like 300. Like where 300 people are asking you for that. Each of those 5-10 minute, 1 hour interactions would eat up an entire year. You got to be very selective of what you choose to take on. And I think I'm still learning, but I'm getting better at that.
Yeah, I can agree with that too. Yeah.
it's tough when you do a lot of things and you're valuable. It's a blessing, of course. Like I'm really happy and thrilled to be helping people, you know? But the thing that's interesting too is like, I was always worried about what would happen when things slow down. And part of me still does. Like I like that momentum. I'm a momentum guy.
Yeah.
Where sometimes I'll like do the easy thing first because I know it's like, okay, the easy thing, the next thing, and then all of a sudden it's
I'm the exact opposite.
You eat the big frog.
I eat the big frog first.
Yeah. I'm not like that at all. Like when I'm doing revisions, I'm like, okay, give me the easy ones first. Just bang them out. I don't know. For me, that's just my method. But
yeah, I like it though. It's like how else are you gonna get the car rolling?
Exactly.
Right.
But for me, it's all momentum. But like the thing that's interesting was when I was in Italy, I didn't post anything. To be honest, right now as we shoot this, I've not posted any content on YouTube for like 2+ weeks. And I had a short amount of I had like a couple of shorts that I was able to kind of throw up there while I was away. Yeah. But I have even right now, I have nothing in the chamber. The YouTube has grown faster without me posting. And I'm trying to figure out why. To be fair, the shorts seem to be, at least at this current moment, something's going on with the shorts. Like YouTube is definitely prioritizing them because I'm getting a lot of views on the shorts, where like I had one with Slate that I did, Slate Digital. Yeah. And that one got like 50K like in no time. And just to be clear, like that might not sound like a big number to some people, but for me, that's a lot. Yeah. For me, like for that to happen in a short span, like I don't think any of my videos have that many views. Some in like the 20s, 30s, thousands over like a year or two span, but to get like 50 like almost overnight, it's like, whoa.
That's crazy.
So I'm seeing how that's really added some traction. And sometimes like now, especially, I'm really thinking like, what if I slow down to only improve the quality of everything? Yeah. Like make it less of a quantity race, because I was always doing this once a week posting schedule. What if I stop that and instead I just focus on maybe like a short or two a week, because the shorts are really working, I'm going to say. And then one banger of a video like every couple weeks or something, like 2-3 weeks. Yeah. I feel like once a month is a little scary. It's like 12. But at the same time though, if they are bangers, I'm still figuring it out, to be fair.
Yeah. I think that's what Simon's doing right now. He's doing like one a month.
Because what I do is like I'm offering value through like how-tos. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that is it's evergreen. So like the thing with like Instagram that sucks is like you post a picture,
it's up for
great for a few hours, and then it sucks. Like nobody sees it ever again. Yeah. YouTube, I'll post something, a few people might see it, nobody might see it for like 6 months, and all of a sudden one day, everybody just wants to learn about how to do this one thing. Yeah. And because that video is just SEO'd properly because of my past experience, it's the thing that pops up first. Huh. Even the other day, I had a student, he's like, yo, I was learning about royalties. I was on YouTube learning, and then I actually found your video, bro. It was like the second one. I'm like, oh shit. Damn, like he wasn't trying to find me. He just was like doing his own research, and my video was there. It's just about how you like kind of set things up and optimize them. Yeah. But eventually, like YouTube too is like a thumbnail title game. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been learning that too. That's a big part of what it is.
Yeah, like if you start noticing like my videos are less how to do X or how to whatever, you know what I mean? And now it's just like pro engineer versus artificial intelligence mixing. You know what I mean? It'll be like some shit like that. You know, it's not actually one, but that's kind of like what it would be.
So what are your goals? What are your big time goals? Like what's your mission?
So, we talked about 200K this year, about halfway there. This month is actually when a lot of grant results are coming in. So there actually is a chance that by the end of August, which is the time we're filming, I might actually have achieved that goal. So we'll see. But that's one of the big ones. The other one is like I've developed a lot of great partnerships on YouTube with like just different companies, which is kind of ironic because I've been buying all these plugins and now I just get them all for free. And I'm like, damn you, where were you a year ago?
They're probably waiting for you to buy it first. And they're like, okay, now we'll give it to you.
Well, now I have the leverage, right? Back to our previous point. You know what I mean? They're seeing what I'm doing and they're liking it. And I'm grateful for it, of course. You know, so I wanna continue to develop these relationships with some of these partners, like Waves and Slate Digital and
gotcha.
Just a bunch of different great companies. And I'm sure there's more out there. And I never like go out of my way to do these things either. Mm-hmm. Like if they come to me and if I actually use the products, which I do, you know, then it's organic and I'll go with it. You know what I mean? So I'm fortunate from that POV. But just to continue developing those relationships, and I really want to just almost triple down on the content. Well, I said slow down. Like I want to slow down, but to ramp up. While I am mixing and mastering and I do enjoy it, like I'm just very interested in like what life would be like to not necessarily like stay in one place
Mm.
and be fixated. Because one of the struggles I think with mixing is it's a tough thing to scale as a solo person.
Yeah.
You have to sit there, you have to trade the time. You could actually mix pretty fast depending on your templates and if you're good, right? But
yeah.
it's still difficult. Like there's only so much that someone's going to pay. So like I definitely still want to mix for the people that I really care about, which I feel like I'm already there anyways, but like start to wind that down a little bit and continue to just figure out these passive income plays. So then like money is no longer even a factor in the choice.
You kind of like you're more free to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah. And again, like I'm not too far away in my current spot, which I'm thankful for.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to make any artist feel like, oh, what a bougie douche. You know what I mean? Like I'm not.
But you've worked hard to get to where you are. So.
Oh man, I've eaten shit for so long. Like and you have too, and Chris had like any engineer any engineer that's still here.
Yeah.
We've all done it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the beauty of music and how I'm looking at it now as an older man on the hilltop is music made me realize that I not only love music, I just love being creative.
Mm.
So if I could just be creative, and sometimes it's the simplest thing. Dude.
Yeah.
I'm the cook in my house. I think I told you this once.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I'll be at home and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna make pesto with fucking shrimp and like this just fancy thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I love the creativity of being able to do that. You know what I mean? Like what goes into the dish, the art of making the dish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I don't even necessarily care about the food, but I love that I have the choice and like the freedom to do what I need to do to make that end product.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with that sort of in mind, it's like I enjoy mixing and taking a song from sounding like doo-doo to sounding like a hit.
Yeah.
I enjoy taking silence and turning it into a beat. I enjoy taking an idea or a curiosity and turning it into a video.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy taking an artist that maybe shouldn't be funded or would never be funded in any other circumstance, but then I get them some money. It's like alchemy, bro. Anything that I touch, I could turn into something as long as I believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And you too, and anybody listening as well. So like, I'm at that point where I'm like, how do I continue down this creative path without necessarily being so tied to my music identity?
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, bro. Well, so where can people find you? Where can they hit you up to talk about funding? Maybe they want to work with you for mixing and mastering.
Of course.
Or learn from you. Where can they find you?
Of course. Well, always going to plug the YouTube first because that's sort of where I'm doubling down. YouTube.com/5piece. 5piece is the name. Number 5, PiECE. Find me on Instagram, same handle. I am going to be posting on TikTok, believe it or not. I've got a whole queue of TikToks that I'm just sleeping on posting. Probably by the time this is live, there will be some. And I think my name is 5piece on there too.
Okay, dope.
And of course, Finding Funding. I have an Instagram account for Finding Funding as well, which I post on sometimes. But findingfunding.ca is the website.
Gotcha.
And 5piecemusic.com
is your website
for everything 5piece. Articles, mixing and mastering. Anything. Yeah.
Sick. Okay, dope. Well, thank you for coming on, bro. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
This is the Behind the Sound podcast. Peace.
The Behind the Sound podcast was recorded at the Orange Lounge Recording Studio, located downtown Toronto.